You've been carrying weakness with you for far too long. Every single day, it whispers to you. It tells you you're not enough. You don't have what it takes. You can't do it. And you've listened. You've believed those lies. You've let those weaknesses shape your choices, your habits, your life. But I'm here to tell you something. Weakness is not your identity. Weakness is not who you are. Weakness is a parasite, and today, you kill it. Weakness doesn't live outside of you. It's not your boss. It's not your family. It's not your circumstances. Weakness lives inside you, and that's the good news. Because if it lives inside you, then you control it. You have the power to strangle it, starve it, and destroy it. But you have to decide you cannot negotiate with weakness. You cannot keep it as a pet. You cannot let it ride your back one more day. You either kill it or it will kill your dreams. Think about it. How many opportunities have you lost because weakness convinced you to play small? How many times did you step back when life was demanding that you step forward? Weakness thrives in hesitation, in doubt, in fear. It thrives when you say, maybe tomorrow. But strength shows up when you say, no more. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how much it hurts. I will not let weakness make decisions for me anymore. Killing weakness doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again. It doesn't mean you'll never feel tired or frustrated or overwhelmed. It means that when those feelings come, you don't bow down to them. You rise above them. You use them. You turn pain into power. You turn doubt into drive. You turn hesitation into hunger. Every day you're at war. Weakness is pulling you down, whispering in your ear, making you soft, making you comfortable. But strength, it's pulling you up, demanding that you rise, demanding that you fight. Which side wins? The side you feed. If you feed your excuses, your comfort, your fear, weakness grows fat, strong, powerful. But if you starve it, if you refuse to feed it and instead feed discipline, feed courage, feed action, then weakness withers. It dies. So here's the choice. You can keep dragging your weakness around like a ball and chain, or you can cut it loose, kill it, and step into the life you were born to live. A life of power, a life of purpose, a life of strength. Because the truth is, you are stronger than your weakness. You are bigger than your fears. You are greater than your excuses. Today is the day you stop making peace with weakness. Today is the day you stand up and say, no more. You draw the line, you kill it. And once you do, once you bury that weakness for good, nothing will stop you. Nothing. Weakness is not your identity. It's a habit you must break. Yet so many people wrap themselves in their weakness as if it's their truth, as if it's their destiny, when in reality it's nothing more than repeated choices, repeated patterns, repeated excuses that you've allowed to take root in your life. And over time, those habits of weakness have started to masquerade as who you are, but they are not you. They are not your DNA. They are not the essence of your soul. They are simply the result of conditioning, of moments when you chose comfort over growth, moments when you chose hesitation over courage, moments when you chose silence over action. And now those moments stacked on top of each other look like an identity. But the truth is, identities can be rebuilt, reshaped, remade, and weakness can be shattered. If you're willing to break the pattern that sustains it, weakness whispers in small ways, in the little voice that tells you to hit snooze one more time, in the rationalization that says you'll start tomorrow, in the permission slip you give yourself to lower your standards. And because these moments feel so small, you don't notice how dangerous they are, but stacked together, they become a cage, a trap that convinces you this is just who you are. And that is the biggest lie, because who you are is not determined by weakness. Who you are is determined by the strength you choose in the face of weakness, by the habits you design that choke weakness out of your system, by the decision to stand up every time you fall down. And that means you have more power than you realize. You have the power to rewrite the script of your life by refusing to let weakness run the show. You see, weakness thrives in repetition. It thrives in the comfort of routine. It thrives when you stop questioning it. And that's why so many people live with it for years, because it feels normal, it feels familiar, it feels safe. But safe does not mean alive. Familiar does not mean fulfilled. And normal does not mean powerful. In fact, normal is usually the enemy of greatness, because greatness requires breaking the patterns that everyone else accepts, and weakness is the strongest pattern of all, the one that convinces you to lower your ceiling so you don't even try to reach higher. And until you wake up and say enough is enough, you will keep carrying weakness like a badge of identity, when all along it was just a choice you made over and over again until it felt like truth. Breaking weakness means breaking habits, and breaking habits means creating disruption. You have to interrupt the cycle. You have to shock your system. You have to refuse to do the easy thing that you've always done, because weakness survives on the easy choice. Weakness loves the path of least resistance. Weakness loves the soft pillow. the skipped workout, the delayed decision, the silent voice, but strength is born in the moment you do the thing you don't feel like doing, in the moment you rise when your body says stay down, in the moment you speak when fear says stay quiet, and every time you make that choice, you chip away at weakness, you carve out space for strength, and little by little you realize you're not defined by what you avoided, you're defined by what you overcame. People talk about identity as if it's set in stone, as if it's locked in at birth, but identity is plastic, it's clay, it's shaped by your actions, your choices, your habits, and weakness is only a mask that identity wears when you give into it for too long. But if you choose discipline, if you choose courage, if you choose resilience, your identity transforms, and you no longer say, I am weak. Instead, you say, I am strong, I am disciplined, I am unstoppable. And that transformation doesn't come from wishing or waiting. It comes from action repeated enough times that strength becomes the new normal, the new habit, the new identity. The danger is that people get comfortable describing themselves by their weaknesses. They say, I'm lazy, I'm fearful, I'm not good enough, I can't change. And those words become self-fulfilling prophecies because the brain believes what you tell it. And the more you affirm weakness, the deeper it digs its claws into your identity. But if weakness is a habit, then so is strength, so is resilience, so is confidence, and you can program those into yourself the same way you program weakness through repetition, through action, through practice, by showing up every single day and proving to yourself that weakness is not who you are, it's just who you've been, and who you've been does not have to define who you will become. Every champion, every leader, every person who has ever risen to greatness has faced weakness, and many of them started with more weakness than you can imagine. But the difference is they refused to mistake weakness for identity. They refused to believe that what they felt in the moment was who they were forever. They broke the pattern. They created new habits. And by doing so, they killed the illusion that weakness had power over them. And if they can do it, so can you, because the truth is the gap between weakness and strength is just a series of decisions, just a handful of habits practiced with consistency, just a refusal to let weakness keep calling the shots. And once you understand that weakness is only ever as strong as the power you give it, you realize that you have always had the ability to break free. When you stop telling yourself that weakness defines you, when you stop carrying it as a label, when you stop defending it as if it's permanent, that is when you reclaim control. That is when you start to experience what true strength feels like. And it doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in the daily grind, in the repetition of choosing differently, in the relentless practice of starving weakness until it shrinks, until it suffocates, until it no longer has a place in your life. And when you reach that point, you don't just feel stronger. You know at your core that weakness was never your identity. It was only ever a habit, and habits can be broken. You cannot negotiate with weakness. You must destroy it, because the moment you start to bargain with it, the moment you try to reason with it, you've already lost. Weakness doesn't play fair. It doesn't compromise. It doesn't agree to meet you halfway. It wants total control. It wants to consume every ounce of your potential, every dream you've ever had, every spark of courage that still burns inside you. Weakness doesn't leave room for greatness. It doesn't share the stage with strength. It doesn't say, I'll stay quiet while you succeed. It says, I'm here. I run the show. And the tragic truth is that too many people live their entire lives negotiating with it, telling themselves little lies like, I'll try harder tomorrow, or I'll just do a little less, or I'll make up for it later. And every one of those lies is a deal with weakness. Every one of those bargains is a contract that sells off another piece of your power. Weakness has one goal: to keep you comfortable, to keep you small, to keep you stuck right where you are. And if you negotiate with it, if you allow it even a sliver of control, it will win, because weakness is patient. It will wait you out. It will whisper when you're tired. It will speak louder when you're afraid. It will comfort you when you doubt yourself. And every time you listen, every time you pause, every time you let it sway your decisions, weakness grows stronger. Weakness feeds on your hesitation. It feeds on your excuses. It feeds on your willingness to postpone the work that must be done. And the only way to end its reign is not to make a deal with it, not to compromise, but to kill it outright, to crush it without mercy, to destroy it with action, with discipline, with relentless refusal to give it one more inch. Think about how many times in your life you've tried to reason with weakness. Maybe you said to yourself, I'll start next week. Maybe you said, I'll go after my dream once things calm down. Maybe you said just this once, I'll skip the hard thing. And every time you said those words, you thought you were in control. You thought you were calling the shots, but really weakness was smiling because it knows once you give in a little, it can take a lot. Once you crack the door open, it can break it wide open. Weakness is not a guest you can politely decline. Weakness is a thief that robs you blind the second you let it inside, and that's why you cannot negotiate with it. That's why you cannot trust it. That's why you cannot treat it as an equal opponent. You must see it for what it is, an enemy that wants everything you've got, and the only way to defeat an enemy like that is total destruction. When you choose to destroy weakness, you're not just rejecting a habit. You're declaring war on everything inside you that wants to hold you back. You're stepping into a fight that will demand the best of you, because weakness doesn't die easily. It resists. It claws. It screams. It tempts you with comfort and distraction. It begs you to fall back into the old ways, but you have to bring more intensity, more discipline, more commitment than weakness can handle. You have to hit it with consistency day after day. You have to deny it oxygen until it suffocates. You have to strike with such force that it has no room to recover. And that doesn't come from half measures. It doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from an unshakable decision that says, I will not let weakness win. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever again. The reason negotiation with weakness fails is because weakness will always offer you comfort at the price of your greatness. It will always give you the easy way out at the cost of your potential. It will always trade your future for your present. And most people take the deal because the present feels so real, the present feels so urgent. But every time you take comfort over growth, you're making weakness stronger. You're building its army inside your own mind, and then you wonder why it feels impossible to break free. But if instead you flip the script and you refuse to sign another one of its contracts, if instead you stand firm and say no more, then you weaken it, you cut off its supply, you tear down its foundation. And once you start doing that with consistency, you realize that weakness only ever had as much power as you gave it. Destroying weakness requires brutal honesty with yourself, because weakness disguises itself as logic. It disguises itself as practicality. It disguises itself as safety. You say to yourself, it's reasonable to rest a little more. It's smart to wait until conditions are better. It's safer not to risk failure. And in that disguised weakness convinces you that it's your friend, but it's not your friend. It's the enemy wearing a mask. And when you rip off that mask, when you see it for what it is, you can't be gentle with it anymore. You can't rationalize it. You can't excuse it. You have to destroy it before it destroys you, because weakness doesn't just take your goals. It takes your spirit. It takes your confidence. It takes your fire. It takes your life force one decision at a time until you're just existing instead of living. The process of destruction is not about one big moment of glory. It's about the daily fight. It's about waking up and refusing to let weakness get the first word. It's about shutting it down when it tells you to skip the workout, when it tells you to stay quiet, when it tells you to give up. And every time you override it with action, you kill a part of it. Every time you move forward in spite of it, you weaken its grip. And slowly, through relentless consistency, you destroy its power over you until you wake up one day and realize you don't hear its voice the way you used to. You don't feel its pull the way you used to, because weakness cannot survive in an environment where discipline and courage are fed daily. Weakness starves to death when you feed strength instead. You cannot negotiate with weakness, because negotiation assumes it has something to give you, but weakness has nothing to offer except regret. It has nothing to offer except lost time, lost opportunities, lost potential. And the only way to protect yourself from that loss is to make the decision that there will be no deals, no compromise, no truce. There will only be victory. There will only be destruction. There will only be the relentless pursuit of strength, discipline, and greatness until weakness has no breath left in its body, until it is gone, until all that remains is the version of you that weakness tried so hard to hide. Every excuse you feed makes weakness stronger. And the dangerous part is that excuses don't always show up looking like excuses. They disguise themselves as logic, as reason, as practicality, as self-care. They come dressed in words that make sense in the moment. They soothe you. They justify your hesitation. They validate your fear. And because they sound so convincing you give in, you say yes to the excuse. And in that moment, weakness eats. It feeds, it grows stronger, and it digs its roots deeper in your life. Every excuse is fuel for weakness. Every time you let yourself off the hook, weakness becomes more powerful and more difficult to fight. Excuses are the food of weakness, because excuses allow you to protect your comfort. Excuses defend your inaction. Excuses justify why you stayed the same. Excuses become the armor you wear when you don't want to admit that you back down from a challenge. And people build entire lives around excuses. They build stories. They build identities. They build reasons why they couldn't do it, why they didn't try, why they stopped. And those stories so polished, so logical, so airtight, but deep down they know, that every one of those excuses was another meal for weakness, another moment where you chose to keep it alive instead of starving it to death. Weakness doesn't need huge victories to survive. It only needs small excuses, tiny compromises, little rationalizations, because weakness understands momentum. It knows that once you excuse yourself today, you're more likely to excuse yourself tomorrow. Once you create a pattern of letting yourself slide, that pattern gets easier and easier until you don't even recognize it as weakness anymore. You call it who you are. You say, I'm just not that type of person. I'm not built for that. I can't do it. When in reality, it's not about who you are. It's about the fact that you've been feeding weakness every day with the steady diet of excuses. And now it's big, it's loud, it's heavy, it's strong, and it feels unstoppable because you've been feeding it for years. Every excuse has a cost. It might feel small in the moment. It might feel like it doesn't matter, but the cost is cumulative. The cost compounds. The cost shows up later in regret, in lost opportunities, in dreams that faded because you didn't act. And the truth is that weakness doesn't starve all at once. You starve it by refusing excuses one at a time. You weaken it by cutting off its food supply. You make it wither by saying no to the rationalizations that once felt so comfortable, and instead doing the thing you know you need to do, whether you feel like it or not, whether it's convenient or not, whether it's comfortable or not. Because every time you deny weakness a meal, you feed strength. Instead, the hard truth is that your greatest enemy is not failure. Your greatest enemy is the excuses that stop you from even trying. Failure makes you stronger. Failure teaches. Failure builds resilience, but excuses rob you of even reaching the point where failure can teach you. Excuses rob you before the game even begins. And that's why weakness loves excuses so much, because excuses guarantee nothing changes. Excuses guarantee you stay exactly where you are. Excuses guarantee you never tap into your real potential. And when you look back years from now, you won't be haunted by the failures. You'll be haunted by the excuses. You'll be haunted by the moments you let weakness eat instead of starving it to death. When you feed an excuse, you don't just give weakness food, you give it authority. You give it the right to speak louder in your life. And it doesn't stop with one excuse. Weakness doesn't say thank you and walk away. It says more. It demands more. It wants you to stack excuse on excuse until you've built a wall that protects it from being destroyed. And the only way to tear that wall down is to stop feeding it, to recognize that every excuse you accept is weakness asking for permission to stay alive inside you. And you have to start denying that permission. You have to start saying, no, not this time, not today, not anymore. And in those moments when you refuse to feed it, you gain back a little strength, a little momentum, a little power, and that adds up the same way excuses add up. Except this time you're building strength instead of weakness. Think about how excuses show up in your life. Maybe it's I don't have time. Maybe it's I'm too tired. Maybe it's I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe it's I'm not ready. Maybe it's I don't know how. Every one of those phrases is weakness knocking at the door with an empty plate asking to be fed. And you've been serving it meals every time you repeat those words, every time you accept those reasons, every time you let yourself believe those lies. And the shift begins when you stop serving them, when you stop cooking meals for weakness, when you stop providing it with reasons to exist. And you start replacing those excuses with action. You start saying, I'll make the time. I'll push through the tired. I'll do it now. I'll figure it out. I'll learn how. And those phrases feed strength. They put weakness on a starvation diet. And if you're consistent enough, weakness won't survive. Excuses are dangerous because they make weakness seem reasonable. They make it feel like you're making smart choices. But really you're giving up, and you disguise it as responsibility. You disguise it as being cautious. You disguise it as self-protection. When in truth it's weakness wrapping chains around you while you smile and pretend you're free. And the day you see that clearly, the day you stop pretending, is the day you start breaking those chains, because you realize that every excuse is a choice. Every excuse is an action, and every excuse is an investment in weakness. And you don't want to keep investing in something that only robs you of your future. So you pull the plug, you cut off the investment, you redirect your energy into strength. And that's how you starve weakness until it has nothing left. The key is to catch excuses in the moment, because once you accept them, once you repeat them, they become real. They solidify in your mind. But if you catch them the second they show up, if you challenge them immediately, if you replace them with action right away, you take away their power. You stop the feeding process and you keep weakness hungry. And the hungrier it gets, the weaker it becomes, until eventually it doesn't have the strength to pull you down anymore. And instead of being driven by excuses, you're driven by discipline, by hunger for growth, by the vision of who you know you can become. When weakness is finally dead, pain and fear are signals to rise, not reasons to stop. And yet most people see them as barriers, as walls they cannot climb, as forces that should send them back into hiding. They hear the voice of pain and they retreat. They feel the grip of fear and they freeze. But pain is not your enemy. Fear is not your enemy. They are guides, they are signals, they are the body and mind screaming at you that this moment matters, that you are stepping into territory that will shape you, that you are crossing a threshold where the old version of you will be tested and the new version of you can be born. Pain and fear are proof that you are alive, proof that you are stretching, proof that you are breaking beyond the limits you thought were fixed. The problem is not pain or fear. The problem is the meaning you attach to them. When you think pain means stop, when you think fear means danger, when you believe those signals are warnings instead of invitations, you shut yourself down, you shrink, you retreat, and weakness grows stronger. But if you flip the meaning, if you decide that pain means growth is happening, that fear means a breakthrough is near, that both are signals calling you to rise higher, then pain becomes fuel and fear becomes fire. You use them instead of running from them. You embrace them instead of resisting them. And that shift changes everything, because suddenly the moments that used to paralyze you become the very moments that launch you forward. Think about it. When have you ever grown without pain? When have you ever discovered your true power without fear? The gym hurts, the stretching hurts, the heartbreak hurts, the failure hurts, but every one of those hurts carried within it the seed of transformation. Pain has always been your teacher. Fear has always been your compass, but most people ignore the lessons. They numb the pain. They avoid the fear. They convince themselves that the safest path is the best path. And yet safety breeds weakness. Safety breeds stagnation. Safety breeds regret, because without pain, you never break down the old. And without fear, you never break into the new. Pain and fear strip away illusions. They show you who you really are when the comfort is gone, when the mask is gone, when you are raw and exposed. That is when the truth emerges. That is when you see your strength. That is when you learn that you are capable of far more than you believe, but only if you face them head on, only if you step into them instead of stepping back, because the doorway to every great achievement, every breakthrough, every victory is guarded by pain and fear, and the only ones who walk through are the ones who understand that those guardians are not there to keep you out. They are there to test if you are serious enough, committed enough, strong enough to claim what you say you want. When you run from pain, you give up your strength. When you run from fear, you give up your future, because the life you dream of, the life where your full potential is, unleash it. That life is on the other side of the things you are afraid of. That life is on the other side of the discomfort you avoid. And every time you run, you reinforce weakness. You feed the belief that you cannot handle it, that you are not enough, that you are fragile. But every time you face it, every time you lean in, every time you endure, you build evidence that you are powerful. You build evidence that you can rise. You build evidence that weakness has no claim on you anymore. Pain is not punishment. Pain is preparation. It is the body and soul preparing you for the strength required to handle the next level. It is life stretching you, chiseling you, sharpening you, so you can hold the way to greatness. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a green light. Fear points to the very thing you must do, the very thing that will expand you, the very thing that will free you. And the more fear you feel, the more important the action likely is, which means fear is not the enemy, but the map. It points to where you should go if you truly want to grow. Weakness thrives when you misinterpret pain and fear, when you say this hurts so I'll stop, when you say I'm afraid so I'll quit. That's when weakness claps its hands. That's when it grows stronger, because weakness knows that if you keep running, you'll never discover the strength that lives beyond the pain. You'll never uncover the courage that lives on the other side of fear. But the moment you flip the meaning, the moment you say this pain is shaping me, this fear is guiding me, that is the moment weakness starts to starve, because it cannot coexist with someone who embraces the very things it uses to control them. Every great transformation story is rooted in pain and fear. The athlete pushing through exhaustion, the entrepreneur risking failure, the parent fighting for their family, the soldier walking into the unknown. Every one of them felt the burn of pain. Every one of them felt the chill of fear, but they didn't treat it as a signal to stop. They treated it as a challenge to rise. And in rising, they discovered strength they didn't know they had, courage they didn't know they carried, resilience they didn't know they possessed. And you are no different. The same strength, the same courage, the same resilience lives inside you. waiting for the moment you stop running from pain and fear and start running toward them. You don't have to love pain. You don't have to love fear. But you do have to respect them. You do have to see them as allies. You do have to understand that they are signals that you are alive, signals that you are in motion, signals that you are stepping into the arena where real growth happens. And when you reframe them this way, when you stop avoiding and start leaning in, you find that pain doesn't break you. It builds you. Fear doesn't shrink you, it stretches you, and both together forge you into someone weakness cannot touch. So the next time pain shows up, the next time fear grips you, don't ask how you can escape it. Ask how you can rise through it. Don't ask how you can avoid it. Ask what it is here to teach you. Don't ask why it's happening to you. Ask how it's happening for you, because the ones who rise, the ones who break free, the ones who destroy weakness, they're the ones who learn to use pain and fear as fuel instead of chains. They are the ones who saw pain and fear not as reasons to stop, but as undeniable signals to rise, kill your weakness. And you unlock your true power, because weakness is the cage, weakness is the weight, weakness is the silent thief that robs you of everything you could become. And as long as you let it live inside you, as long as you feed it with excuses, as long as you let it whisper lies into your mind, you will never experience the full force of what you are capable of. Weakness keeps you dimmed. It keeps you small. It keeps you half alive. And the moment you kill it, the moment you refuse to let it dictate even one more decision, you unleash a version of yourself that has been waiting in the shadows, the version of you that is powerful, focused, disciplined. Unstoppable weakness is the chain that binds your potential. It convinces you that the ceiling above you is permanent. It convinces you that the floor beneath you is fixed. It convinces you that the boundaries you feel are real, but they are not real. They are illusions built by weakness. Illusions that collapse the second you decide to break them. Weakness whispers that you are limited, but the truth is you have no idea how much strength, how much creativity, how much courage you actually have until you kill weakness. Because once it's gone, there is no filter, there is no barrier, there is no voice telling you that you cannot. And suddenly what used to feel impossible becomes possible. What used to feel out of reach becomes within your grasp. What used to paralyze you becomes fuel. When you kill weakness, you don't just unlock performance. You unlock identity. You unlock the version of yourself that you were always meant to be, because weakness has been holding you hostage, making you live as a fraction of yourself, making you identify with your limitations instead of your possibilities. And once you cut it loose, once you destroy it, you step into your true self, the self that is strong, disciplined, courageous, relentless, the self that does not shrink from challenges but hunts them, the self that does not fear pain but uses it, the self that does not run from fear, but follows it straight into growth. And when you live as that self, you stop surviving and you start thriving. You stop existing and you start conquering. That the power that is unlocked when weakness is killed is not small. It is not incremental. It is exponential. It's the difference between dragging chains and running free. It's the difference between being weighed down and lifted up. It's the difference between playing at 10% and living at 100. And the reason so many people never taste this power is because they think they can negotiate with weakness. They think they can manage it. They think they can live with it and still succeed. But weakness does not share. Weakness does not compromise. Weakness either lives or it dies. And if it lives in you, it will always keep you from full power. But if you kill it, if you starve it, if you crush it, then nothing remains to hold you back. You've seen glimpses of your true power before. In the moments when you pushed through exhaustion, in the moments when you faced fear and acted anyway, in the moments when you overcame pain, in the moments when you refused to listen to the excuses, those moments felt alive. They felt electric. They felt like you were finally touching the edge of your potential. And those moments were you without weakness. Those moments were proof of the strength that is already inside you. But the problem is you let weakness come back. You let it take the stage again. You let it smother the flame. And that's why you only got glimpses. But if you kill weakness completely, those glimpses become permanent. That feeling becomes your baseline. That power becomes your daily reality. Killing weakness doesn't mean you will never feel fear again. It doesn't mean you will never feel pain again. It doesn't mean you will never face resistance again. It means those things will no longer control you. It means those things will no longer define your decisions. It means those things will show up and you will act anyway. And in that moment, you are free. Because freedom is not the absence of fear or pain. Freedom is the mastery of them. Freedom is the ability to act no matter what. Freedom is the ability to choose strength every time weakness tries to pull you back. And that freedom is only available when weakness is dead. The true power that comes after weakness is killed is not just physical or mental. It is spiritual, it is emotional, it is identity level transformation because you no longer see yourself as someone who avoids, you see yourself as someone who conquers. You no longer see yourself as someone who makes excuses. You see yourself as someone who creates results. You no longer see yourself as someone who is fragile. You see yourself as someone who is unbreakable. And that shift changes everything. It changes the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you live. It changes the energy you carry in every room. It changes the confidence you project in every challenge. It changes the standards you demand from yourself and the world around you. Weakness will always try to make you forget this power exists. It will always try to lull you back into comfort. It will always try to seduce you with ease. But the moment you taste what life feels like without weakness, the moment you step into that raw, unfiltered power, you cannot go back. You cannot settle. You cannot tolerate living at half strength anymore. Because once you know what you are truly capable of, once you experience the full weight of your potential, the fire inside you will not let you settle for less. And that is why killing weakness is the most important decision you will ever make, because it is the doorway to everything else. The person who kills weakness becomes unstoppable because there is nothing left inside to sabotage them, no inner voice to hold them back, no excuses to chain them, no fear to paralyze them. They may stumble, they may fall, but they rise every time because they are not dragging the corpse of weakness with them anymore. They are light, they are free, they are strong, and with that strength they can build, they can create, they can lead, they can inspire, they can achieve, they can conquer. They can live the life that was always possible, but never accessible as long as weakness had a seat at the table. This is why the call is not to manage weakness, not to reduce weakness, not to balance weakness. The call is to kill it, to starve it, to cut it out, to destroy it so completely that it has no place in your life anymore. Because the second it's gone, the second it's dead, the second you refuse to let it exist in you, the lock comes off, the chains break, the door opens, and you step into your true power, the power that was always there, the power that was always waiting, the power that turns you into who you were always meant to be,